people. And Barry, back to the balance sheet there at Ibrox, which I know you do, Castor. Are you a shareholder in Rangers?
No,
are you not?
But
Okay,
I was really interested because there's been a lot of noise for the fans wanting to know where the money in, and I think it was brilliant that as quickly as John Bennett came out, I thought he was really good in his interview, very open and honest, as I said, and I think it cleared up quite a lot of what's been said, and obviously he went on about recruitment in terms of players coming in, and I agree with him. You're at 3 weeks into September, so new players have been in the club for 6-7 weeks. I think it's far too early to judge players. I think you've got to give them 3, 4, 5 months at least. And he was talking about that, like Lawrence, for instance, come in, done really well. Sholak scored 9 goals. We're talking about Yilmaz, £5.5 million. Now you've got to give him another couple of months, and then you can maybe cast your eye over whether that was a good or bad signing. But it was an interesting interview. It went on for about 30 or 40 minutes, and I'm sure
is that on Rangers TV?
Yeah, I'm sure he would have cleared up a lot of things for Rangers fans. I think it's important that the board, because I think he's vice chairman, so he's come out and he spoke really well, and I'm sure the Rangers fans would have enjoyed listening to that.
He's put his money into the club, hasn't he, along with Douglas Park and others. Did he say, did you get any indication of how much money will be available to GVB come January?
No, they never.
Not yet.
No.
It's very difficult, Paul, because you're talking about Yilmaz at £4 and £5 million. As I spoke about the other week, there was an 18-year-old boy who went from Man City to Southampton for something like 12 or 20 million or something like that. We've never heard of him. So that shows you the sort of levels you're talking about. And you're trying to say that Ross Wilson wouldn't know these players. Of course he would know. Ross was at Southampton. He would know all these guys down in England. He knows them all. He knows the players that's available. But yet again, 4 or 5 million we're talking now, Barry, gets you a youth team player. And unfortunately, that's the sort of top dollar we'd be playing for players up here, because that's what you can afford. Because on top of that, you've got the wages. Now when you see guys down in England going, you're thinking, God almighty, you wouldn't get in your dressing room and he's still going for £20 million. And that's the difference with that. And it's very, very difficult. And you've got to understand the Rangers as well. Some of the boys have brought in have not been available. Davis, Suter, which were going to be so-called big players for them. They've not been available either. So once they get their fitness back, then you start, I think, asking questions or looking at the manager and saying we got it right here, or the recruitment's right, once they start to perform. Because if they perform well for you, everybody forgets.
He also did mention a lot of people look just who's been brought in, but new contracts have been given out. In terms of Connor Golson, long-term contract. Tavernier, club captain, long-term. He signed up Stephen Davis and Alan McGregor and Scott Arfield, who will be big earners. So there has been money spent. I'm just interested to listen to it, and once you listen to it, you get a grip of what's actually going on. And I've always maintained, and you know this, I think the Rangers board at this moment in time are the right people to take Rangers forward. And with him coming out yesterday, I think it'll ease a lot of the Rangers supporters' minds.
And he vowed that Rangers, you don't often get that from
He's
a
going
director.
to continue to spend. They've said that they're going to continue to spend on the stadium, on the youth setup, on the training ground, stuff round about the stadium. There's going to be a lot of investment going into that, because they were talking about there's new executive boxes getting built, new lounges getting built, and this all brings money into the club. So it was a real interesting watch and listen.